start talking about some KPI option magic. Um, yeah, kind of curious. I'm talking first, but I'm not necessarily the most informed person in the room. Just curious, like where the conversations have gotten to around how you all might want to structure this, or any other revelations. I see the channel's been pretty active.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll cover things real quickly from my perspective, which also may not be the most informed, but um, I think a long time ago, several months ago, actually, we talked about doing the KPI options, and that's why we had this channel to begin with, the KPI options channel. And Clayton, you and I talked about that back then, but at the same time, we didn't really have everything ready to go. We did have a community member. I think his name on the Discord is Crypto M. He he did submit a couple UMIPs for us on the discourse, the forum that you guys have. And then afterwards, we kind of got stuck because we needed a reliable source of TVL. And what we were looking at and what we're still looking at is having a subgraph and also DeFi pulse. And then, we kind of got blocked by DeFi pulse because we needed to get stuff merged and then have them, review it and approve it. And on the subgraph side, we didn't have the bandwidth to look into that. But that's both those things are really coming together now. Like they merged both the Polygon stuff and the Ethereum stuff now. So both TVL should be included. And then the subgraph is also wrapping up. So we're really excited to kind of push this forward and combine our community so we can, run this experiment to see, what KPI options can do for our community and to really leverage UMA and all its good KPI options. But yeah, so that's kind of the context from my side.
That's really cool. Would anyone from DFX like to kind of give us a little wrap up of what you guys are, what your mission is, and what you guys are all about for maybe anyone out in the audience that doesn't isn't really aware?
Sorry, yeah, probably should have done that earlier. Um, Yeah, so DFX really basically stands for decentralized forex. The whole idea is that we think that the future of finance will include a lot of stuff that includes, the current financial system, right? Which is stable, which is like forex trading, for example. But also more importantly, for DeFi and for this blockchain world, this Ethereum world to become really truly global, we can't just have one stable coin, because not everyone uses the US dollar. So if all our stable coins are just USD pegged, that's not going to be something viable. And I think there is a very nascent market, but a very very potentially huge market for bootstrapping the ecosystem for foreign stablecoins. And when I say foreign stablecoins, I just mean non-USD pegged stablecoins. Um, Adding on to that, the traditional forex market brings in trillions of dollars of volume per day, and that's also something that we think that in the future we will need to capitalize on, and is going to be huge on DeFi because it just makes more sense, right? There's a lot more, efficiencies that can be done. There's like less like open hours or closed hours and things like that. So the whole point of DFX is to really bootstrap that foreign stablecoin ecosystem. And as a part of our launch, we focused on three specifically: the CADC for Canadian dollar, the EURS for the euro, and XSGD for Singaporean dollar. We are looking to partner with more. So if anyone has any like connections and things like that for stablecoins in other countries, we definitely want to hear from you. But that's basically it. Yeah, the foreign stablecoin ecosystem.
Nice, that's really cool. It's awesome. You guys got three already under the belt too.
Yeah, and it's pretty fascinating. So I participated in the liquidity mining for those assets in the beginning, and it became apparent to me that what's cool about that is there are certain people who have access more easily than others to like load funds in through these different gateways that like fiat on ramps and things. And so by liquidity mining, you're sort of providing an incentive for the people that it's easiest to kind of upload their dollars, so to speak, or upload their fiat. Um, Gives them an incentive to do so, and then other people might buy it from them. And that just kind of like allows the decentralized world to sort of pull more and more funding in from the centralized world. So I just think it's a cool dynamic, and it's one that supports the DeFi ecosystem in general. So I could see this being pretty fundamental financial infrastructure in the future.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm just trying to get a hold of like the this particular call. I mean, I think it's an AMA, but also it sounds like it's also a way for us to kind of coordinate and kind of kick off our joint communities together so we can, push forth on these KPI options. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we need to really define, I like to have these calls kind of open-ended and let them go in the direction that they want to go in.
100%. That's cool with me too.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
I'm sort of curious, so we kind of have clarity around what the KPI would be, um, with regard to TVL. Um, Maybe even moving away from the KPI talk, just more generally about the community, just kind of curious, like, how would you describe DFX's current community? And maybe what are some of the things you'd hope to see in the near future or you think need to happen? Um, just curious overall.
I'll respond quickly, and then I think I should probably give the floor a little bit more to Cody and Rush. Cody is head of growth, Rush is head of community, and those roles kind of blend together. But they really kind of steward the community from here on out. They're our recent hires, and they've been doing great. But with our community, admittedly, it's actually quite small right now still. But I would say people that are here tend to be quite passionate. And the thing is, there are a lot of blockers and things, and we've been kind of slow and not so great with our marketing in the last few months, and really just the whole year, really. So although we had like a pretty decent launch and all that, I think a lot of people, came in, maybe farmed for a little bit, probably stuck around for a couple weeks or months, dumped the token most likely, and it went on their merry way. So the people that are left, I think, are very very much very focused on the mission because when you have a relatively dead Discord, and I'm just being self-deprecating here. I love our Discord. For several months, the people who are still here tend to be pretty well motivated. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Right now there's nothing that I think the KPI options is a big part of what we're focused on because we're doing this AMA, we're doing we're trying to put a lot more focus on that now. Whereas previously we were more focused on our product and making sure things launch, but we're trying to be a bit more outward facing now. We're also like restarting our governance efforts. So you guys will notice that we've actually put on a couple of votes in the last couple of weeks. So just by the way, but here's another reminder to vote for the latest vote, which is adding um, the Turkish lira. So anyway, with that, maybe I'll give some opportunity for Rush and Cody to kind of talk about this a little bit as well.
Hey, Rush, would you like to go first, or you want me to chime in after? All depends on what you want to do. I don't know, Rush. Can you guys hear Rush by any chance, or no?
I think he might
No.
be away
Oh,
from
sorry.
keyboard.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah,
never
we got
mind.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can hear
yeah.
Sorry, my mic was muted. Uh,
It's all good, man. You can go ahead and chime in, and then I'll go in after you.
Actually, you can go first because I'm the least informed person in this room.
All right, I'll go ahead. So hi guys, my name's Cody. One of the newest, the growth marketing lead for DFX. Um, so the community right now, kind of going off of what Adrian said, kind of slow at first, which is totally understandable, and that's pretty much how every community starts. Um, you know, as we slowly keep building, or as the team keeps progressing, I think we're going to expand more and more things. The one thing right now I'm kind of trying to fine tune is pretty much trying to get everything on the back end situated to where we can have these proposals going out, and then in conjunction, sending notifications to people, letting people know the easiest way to do it, how-to guides, and pretty much try to grow an organic and natural community. I come, or I take, I guess you could say, some of my background from ex-military, and then I kind of jumped into crypto in 2017. So I've kind of been in for a little bit now, and I kind of catered towards the remittance side of it, or just diaspora financial inclusion. I was kind of looking into the stuff that I think maybe some people are familiar with, like Telcoin and what they were doing. And so I kind of just watched that and seeing how communities were growing in an actual organic but a powerful way, bringing in people that really are suffering from a problem. And hey, here's the solution. So let's try to get it to you. Let's show you how you can work with it. Here's, just the opportunities there, but they lack the way to be able to understand it or be able to engage with it. So I think that's what I'm really going to try to bring in. And I think Rush can help me do that, especially with a lot of his backgrounds in graphic design and illustration and things like that. So I guess you could say, over the remainder of the year, we're going to be pushing really hard to try to, blend that together and try to give that information clear and concise, so everyone's included everywhere in the world at any time whenever they need to be. So I think that's a good bit of my part where I can start with.
That's cool. Very well said, Cody. Couldn't have said better myself.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So, chiming in, my name is Rush, and that's my real name, by the way, not a nickname, for anyone who's like interested in knowing.
It's a pretty cool name.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, people keep reminding me it's like I keep asking me if my parents got it from like Canadian band, because what what I remember, it's like a Canadian band named after well, not named after me, but named Rush as well.
Oh yeah, Rush is well known. Very good band.
Limelight, Tom Sawyer, they got a bunch, man.
Yeah, so moving on, just to bring a bit of my background, I came from a game development background, and I jumped in on crypto back in 2015. And since then, I've been just interested in learning more about how, uh, if I could bring a better world to like everyone, especially the unbanked portion of the world, where they can't easily access financial services that easily, because they need a lot of like documents, and for someone who's maybe in a third world country, they don't have access to these services so easily. So yeah,
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 it's really cool. I love what Jack Mahler's did going over to El Salvador and getting Bitcoin and the Lightning Network over there. Like that's really powerful stuff. So I already could tell I love what you guys are doing over here.
yeah. I just want to like also touch on that, right? Like, I think the remittance dream that crypto has been talking about for like I don't know, a decade plus at this point. That's something that will definitely require, foreign stable coins, right? Like, I think at this point, a lot of people, maybe, some people might still believe that, Bitcoin or Ethereum will replace all fiat currencies, but I just don't think that is going to happen anytime soon. Not that, I can predict the future, but, if we have, strong on-off ramps with foreign stable coins and a good exchange for the exchange of foreign stable coins, we can accomplish that remittance stream, like, in the next few months, really, if we put our work into it and grow that community. So it's really great to have Rush, come in and be passionate about that remittance use case as well. Because, as you can probably kind of grasp at this point, DFX, sure, like we're focused on foreign stable coins, but there are multiple implications, right? There's the traditional forex market. There is, maybe local payment services, but there's also remittances and just overall, bootstrapping that global DeFi ecosystem as well.
So in identifying that like sort of goal or that maybe emphasis around remittances, if that is what you'd want to be the emphasis, how could you picture a community supporting that? What sorts of things, kind of concretely, would you imagine community members, like if you painted a picture of your ideal community member, how do they spend their day in your Discord? What kind of stuff are they doing to support that vision?
I would say the first off, if they're here already, they're already in the right direction. I would say, they're starting to, see that there are bigger problems out there that we're actually catering to, and we're looking into. And I think that going back what Adrian said too about this stablecoin as well, and I'll finish on your question in a second, Clayton. Um, every one of these, I know we're all dependent on the, USDCs or, the Binance USDs, whatever. Um, Again, all these stablecoins are going to be dependent on their own individual markets as well. So each country is going to obviously, like he said, you're going to need a stablecoin for each one, depending on how that country is doing overall, in general. So we can't just have one single, dependence, because if we do, then we have that single point of failure. So again, I agree, just the stablecoins in general and providing different communities to help build off that, like you guys are, obviously we're talking the communities I think together is bigger than what we think. Even though we have these individual silos, we're all realizing that like to create a better, prosperous future, things do have to be made and they have to work in tandem with each other. And so, uh, I guess you could say effectively, just the crypto community in general, wants that to a certain extent. So I think that aggregating those individuals that are really wanting to see it for, you know, um, hey, we're doing good in the world, opposed to, hey, we're kind of taking our time. We don't really care about these people over here. We want to care about everyone, and I think that's the main premise of it is, financial products for everyone, not for the select few. So I think that, and going back to your question, Clayton, I think that most of the time the people that are in our community are engaging with others. And what we would like to see is just, talking, creating, great proposals or trying to bring forth ideas that they have. Whether if they think that they may not be important or not, they are important, because that idea isn't going to be out there unless someone says it. So, again, I think community members, kind of just educating themselves on even and things that we're going to provide to them. I think that they're trying to get a better understanding of how they can contribute, and I think that's going to be one of the main things that at least my focus is how can I help individuals be able to take part in this ecosystem that is for all of us.
That sounds really interesting. And I think what I'd like to maybe dive in a bit more to understand on that is when you say like helping out the community to have an impact and to sort of grow on that, would you be looking at it being maybe like one to one or one to many, in the sense that would you want the communities to be looking at, creating some form of collectives or committees or something of that nature to take up different aspects of what you're looking at doing, right? You'll mention marketing, you mentioned getting the word out, being more outward facing. So of course, as the core team, you would want to be doing that, but the community can also have a hand in that. And I'm sure that's what you're looking at as well. So just wanted to understand, how would you sort of see that play out as well? Um, is it maybe directed in some way by the core team or by the overall, the folks here? Is it uh, mostly led by the community and the team is supporting? Just kind of understanding what you guys are looking at.
And from my perspective, and again, just coming in new to it on the DFX side of it, I think it's going to be a hand in hand scenario. I think for it's going to be the whole time. It's going to be a hand in hand scenario. If someone needs help understanding things, obviously we can do that. But I'm saying that I think that we want to be able to help initially, and then everyone starts to play hand in hand with it, and then we can kind of in tandem work with that, and kind of create this cohesion, and then we can blend out everywhere, opposed to just not only just the DFX side of it. Yes, we are an important factor in it, yes, but all these communities that are helping build are. So I think that a committee, a committee, like you said, I think is very beneficial as well. I think they can kind of give good oversight and kind of give good direction within certain ways that they go. And I guarantee, obviously, there's multiple ones out there, but finding the right one that caters to everyone's needs is definitely the one that we need to be looking forward to. Rush, I don't know if you have any comment on that.
Well, I just want to say uh just want to say that the best followers have like confidence in their abilities and the abilities of their leaders. So if the leaders are, for example, like great leaders, then naturally we generate like good followers. And like you said, everyone could just help chime in and help one another. Like for example, I used to be just like a like a Discord member, I guess, like a LP, liquidity provider for DFX. But I've since taken that to like the next level, seeing as the team have seen me over the past few months, like help people whenever they have like questions about the AMM in general. So yeah, bringing it back to you, it's all about just people helping out each other and chiming in.
One thing I wanted to add to that real quick was what Adrian was saying about Bitcoin and Ethereum as well, and this kind of works hand in hand. I think that the overall when people say that it's going to replace it, we're putting like a tribalism on it. We're putting this tribalistic view on it, saying, "Hey, only this one, and if it's not this one, then we don't care." That's not a good way I think thinking about it. Every one of these protocols or anything along those lines, they all operate differently, yes, and they all do different things, and so that's what makes it great is we don't have to all, it's not about being the fastest, it's not about being the cheap. It's about being the most efficient and providing the most opportunity. So again, um, yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, and more specifically to the what I personally think that I'd like to see from the community, and with the direction that I kind of see it going is like several things, right? Like it is the outreach, it is the producing content, memes, and all that stuff. I mean, we have a memes channel, right? Um, and also some of the harder work as well that some of the community members have already been doing, which is commenting on the UMIPs, right? Getting proposals passed, and maybe not just with UMA, but with other protocols as well, coming up with different ideas to kind of push this protocol forward. Because eventually, we really do need to like hand off the reins to the community for a lot of this stuff. Now, obviously, it's a gradual process as we kind of steward this in these beginning stages, but eventually, we really want to see the community take that ownership and really like you know come together and think about, okay, what's the next currency that we want to target? How do we get there? How do we promote the stable coin? That could mean like a whole bunch of random things, right? Obviously KPI options, that's one thing that you could do, but you can also have something a little bit more out there, like, oh, maybe there needs to be like a website that sells gift cards, allow you to redeem gift cards for that with that currency, or for example, right? Just really trying to think outside the box, because what we are doing is really kind of bringing existing fiat currencies onto the blockchain and making sure that they have tendrils and are able to interact with different aspects of day-to-day life as well. And of course, like we aren't those stablecoin issuers ourselves, but we definitely want to see that whole ecosystem grow, and that's, I think, something that I think a lot of us can get behind.
Yeah, it actually sounds really exciting. I love the fact that you've spoken about how the community is going beyond just like the local governance and actually going out to those protocols, like you mentioned, to be involved and be and participate there as well. Um, yeah, I think that's a really cool thing that we also here as the superhumans with Uma are kind of involved in a large way as well, right? We are kind of like homed kind of at UMA, but we love coming out and talking to other DAOs and sort of communicating around communities, right? Communities and the value proposition that the products that sort of UMA's put out actually help each of those communities, and those could be DAOs, it could be protocols, those could be situations where the protocol is actually in the process of DAOification, where they're progressively becoming, more handed off to the community, like you were saying, and initially sort of stewarded. So it's really exciting, really interesting to see this playing out in so many different ways across so many DAOs. So yeah, awesome.
And that's exactly why we're here, right? We're all in this together trying to build a better tomorrow for everyone.
Bingo.
Yeah, I think Clayton will probably not appreciate this joke, but I mean, it's pretty much in the name as well with UMA, right? Universal market access. So I mean, couldn't be a better sort of partnership and discussion we're having here right now. But yeah, Clayton, I saw you unmuted, so go ahead.
So I realized that Adrian gave a overview of DFX. Should we like kind of introduce KPI options a little bit, or maybe like explain some of the context for why I was asking specifically about community members? Or do people think that that context is already shared? People are already kind of across that.
I think we
I would.
should. I do have one question. I think it's the question that everyone in the audience
Perfect.
and as me as well have. Um, so my question is, um, why KPI options over a like a typical airdrop?
Sure. Um, One way that I think of KPI options is just a smart airdrop. Essentially, you have the same initial function of an airdrop where you give tokens to a targeted or to a specific list of addresses based on whatever criteria you devise. Except instead of merely giving them liquid tokens that they could sell today, what you're doing is giving them a conditional token that'll pay off at some date in the future. And so there's a couple things going on when you do that. One is you're giving them an incentive to help change that future event. You're also making sure not to give out too many tokens unless a condition is met that sort of justifies giving out those tokens. It would sort of prevent sort of token dumping. Essentially, is the way of thinking of that. Um, and yeah, another reason is that the premise of people holding tokens and becoming kind of aligned with the project, that sort of works. I mean, it does. But there seems to be something cool about KPI options where I think it's because it's on a time horizon that is pretty definable. People don't really know when they should sell their token, or they just collect up the native token. um, that has just like this timelessness to it, right? Um, and so you might want to help the protocol grow, but you're not sure like when you might sell it or if you're going to hold it forever. KPI options are cool because it gives it this defined goal and this defined like payout state associated with it. Um, and then I would just, I'm not going to ramble on too much, but it does lend itself well to community. Um, just because like there's this cool psychological impact, I think, where you're working alongside these other people to achieve this KPI, achieve this goal. And so people will go out and achieve results and they'll come back and share their successes, and then everyone's kind of excited. And I think it just creates this more immediate sense of camaraderie than just straight tokens do sometimes. Um, but I mean, pure airdrops have their strength. Don't get me wrong. This is just a different kind of tool, and it's just a little more intentional.
Hey
What's up,
guys,
EA?
I was gonna say this is EA Sports from the Superhumans. I joined a few minutes late too, but Clayton, I think that I was gonna piggyback. You touched on a couple of the points I was gonna share, but I think one, the community side is important. I think as some of the DFX folks have touched on, of kind of the desire to grow and hand the reins off. I think it's conducive to building a collaborative, um, community towards certain visions or goals and business objectives, right? I think if you airdrop, it may be harder to align some of those efforts in a traditional sense versus a KPI option where you're very specifically defining kind of a larger goal for the group to rally against. I think the other component of this that potentially is more valuable or I see as a benefit would be um, kind of the risk to the project, right? So if you do a traditional airdrop, there's potential for some portion or percentage to do kind of an immediate, dump and sell for profits, or whatever that amount that you airdrop is kind of the committed expense. On the KPI option, you have to lock, a particular amount as collateral. But if you don't hit kind of some of those outcomes or metrics collectively, you get that back, right? You're not obligated to pay that out unless you hit those business objectives or indicators. And so, if you want to try this as an experiment, I think one of the interesting use cases right now is we have some projects looking at doing kind of community grants for specific outcomes. Well, if you want to curate some content and that content isn't high quality and doesn't work, then it doesn't cost the protocol or the treasury or the team the same amount if they don't hit some of those metrics or goals defined in the KPI option, which I think is another kind of differentiator to a traditional option rush.
That's I like
Very
how
well said too.
yeah,
Sorry.
well said.
Well, you know how I see it is like your typical incentive that
Long-term
people want.
participation, right?
So I think Rush, we were losing you over there. Seems like you were cutting in and out.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Is
No,
it
you're
fine? Is it fine now?
Yeah, you seem fine now.
All right.
yeah. I'll go.
Cool. So I was just gonna say that it's cool how it incentivizes long-term participation because I've seen airdrops being gamed by bots like before. They would essentially like I don't know, like a single person or a group of people have like multiple different wallets, and they would have a dust amount of like these governance tokens to vote on, right? And these bot wallets would essentially get the airdrop tokens and immediately dump as soon as they receive them, which causes like a lot of headaches for like the community members.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, with any option, right, there's a gameability aspect to it, right, to take advantage. But I think you control kind of the payout mechanism or the qualifying metric as well as the distribution mechanism here. So there's much more flexibility or opportunity to be intentional with how you do that and kind of put guardrails around some of those things. I mean, to your point, I think most people experienced in DeFi have seen like, yeah, bots. I'm going to take a ton of wallets and gather some of these tokens or vote or do something on testnet because there's rumors of airdrops for it and they dump it. I think kind of to Clayton's point, you may have a smaller portion of that even in community members who aren't bought in and kind of as a symptom get benefits. For example, if they get distributed some of the KPI option. But I think a benefit I see that aligns with kind of what you guys were talking about with some of the broader goals, vision, and future of DFX is the community building and the collaborative, like long-term engagement and nature that, uh, at least in our experience, I think it rallies the group around to hit and meet the business objective.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add on to EA Sports' point around the trial pilot kind of approach as well. It works out really well when you have those time horizons, like Clayton said, because not only does that offer you a way to test out like an objective, test out some metrics and see if, that will actually galvanize the community or that will galvanize, TVL, whatever you're really trying to target. You get to sort of trial that out. You get to get like a period of time within that 3 months, finding it as a way to sort of see how you're getting it out there, see if you want to keep some back and not just airdrop all of it, and keep some back and actually use that as a fund for the community, and reward bounties or reward participation. We that we kind of like a net even effect where basically everyone is doing cool stuff and motivating each other. So if you just basically keep going around, I mean, obviously, variables, but yeah, it's a really fun effect. I think that sort of positive loop that Clayton was speaking to earlier, where people are coming back in and they're sharing what they are excited about and what they accomplished. This adds like, on top of that as a mechanism of, appreciation and really bolstering the camaraderie that you would already normally have, and taking into that next level. And just as an add-on to that, the other aspect of why a pilot or a trial um, lends itself well, apart from the experimentation you do within that period. But what we're seeing other protocols that are, really looking at adopting KPI options is experiment with, okay, what if we do a rollover that not only will it be for this, 1 month, 3 month period, but at the end of that, we can offer a new round of KPI options that people can either swap over as an option. They can either redeem because they feel like they've given as much as they can to the community, and they kind of want to get rewarded for that by redeeming. Or they could look at, hey, this swap that I do for the next KPI option is having even better metrics. It aligns more with my goals that I am able to achieve, and so I'm going to actually swap and stay on for the next 3 months as well. So a lot of options available as well. Uh, Pun not intended, but yeah, a lot of options available as well within the framework and within what you want to try and target each cycle if you so choose to go that route.
I agree with you. I think option, obviously, it provides more opportunity for more people, and it gives them the choice. I think overall, which is, I think pretty cool. Yes.
Yep. Definitely more powerful than typical airdrop.
Yeah, yeah. Just airdrop in general, like you were saying, it's just, again, you can do that and post it out there, and people are like, yeah, we'll follow them, just for the airdrop, and like you said, they go ahead, they get what they want, and they leave, and it's like, okay, well, that's not. You were never here to be part of the community. You were here just for a select reason, and it's like, okay, you got it, and you're done. Um, and so I think that's kind of the thing where I come in and I'm kind of like, I don't like that, So I totally agree with kind of providing that barrier of protection. I think the is definitely a must, but still providing the option in general.
I want to chime in a bit here because yeah, I think generally it seems like there's a good amount of support for this approach. I think the thing that DFX we still need to figure out for DFX is who we give these to. And so I think like the first obvious candidates would be the existing community that is like loyalist. That would be that yeah, a no-brainer. But essentially we need to identify some sort of criteria that are like the people that would support DFX if they only knew it existed, or the people who have the right skills who could help achieve a particular KPI. And that's not super straightforward. And I will walk you guys through real quick what Uma's done. The first airdrop we did was to 7,000 addresses, and there was people who'd participated in governance across 5 different DeFi protocols on Snapshot, included like Sushi and BadgerDAO and 3 others. I would not say that that was super successful in terms of the conversion, because I created or we created the Super Uman kind of movement, or sort of bucket, I guess, to kind of capture people that wanted to work towards the KPI. And I think we had like between 50 and 100 people out of those 7,000 who like became Super Umans. That doesn't mean it was like it had no effect on the other people, but like if you look at it purely from the conversion to active community members, it wasn't super great. Subsequently, so we've done 2 quarters. Essentially, we focused the second one just on the active superhumans from the previous one, because we already had this real core group going. And then we've started kind of an onboarding and a recruitment process. And so instead of airdropping, what we do is just allow people to kind of earn some position in the community and demonstrate themselves to be good community members. And then we offer them KPI options for that current round. Um, I do think that the initial model, so the model that we used was like a wide net airdrop. You find those like valuable people to build kind of the core, and then create kind of a recruitment type of system.
So that's the model we used. I'm not saying it's the only possible model, but I do think that DFX is in the stage of wanting to think through this airdrop and kind of who that target group might be.
Clayton, I was just going to add on, I think part of what I heard the DFX team speaking to earlier is kind of this vision to both engage and grow some of the core community that, will eventually take over a lot of these functions of the project moving forward. I think to your point, you talked about it, kind of the initial model of that broad airdrop being, I don't know what word you used, a success. I would say like the value there is different, right? It was successful in my mind of like kind of jump starting the superhumans, but the ROI per option, I guess, was much less than the second distribution in my mind if I was to evaluate that. But I think that there's probably a middle ground. Like one of the takeaways as we've looked at kind of the onboarding and recruiting is understanding some of the other projects with strong community engagement, maybe where some of that talent comes from. And so while the initial KPI option was targeted at like governance participants, I would actually say if we were to do it again, it may be interesting to look at like who has good sticky community engagement already. Um, I think there's value for the existing community, of course, because they're bought in, probably already involved to a degree, and provides additional alignment or incentivization for hitting those metrics. But I also think there, as you're trying to grow, at least initially, it's good to bring some like awareness or hype, even if that ROI per option is maybe not as much as others, and targeting that to folks where we think they'd be most impactful or kind of sticky or interested in contributing as well. So just a thought there. I mean, so if we wanted to get specific, like some of the folks from Badger, for example, have been um, both very active in their own community, but also kind of back to contribute to the superhuman side as well, or others involved like actively in DAOs, for instance, right? Like creator DAO or bankless DAO, where there's already types of functions or mechanisms to do some of the outputs, I think would be really interesting from a participation standpoint.
Agreed.
I think it's an interesting point. I think 2 points that you brought up. One is from the point of view of that middle ground, right? You could also be considering that you mentioned, right, the community going out and voting in other protocols, those maybe, quote unquote partner protocols or what have you, could be good spaces to consider kind of partnering as well with this. It really depends on what kind of relationship they have again with their communities and within that DAO. But that's also another option wherein you have the KPI options possibly, shared with through that partnership with the community in a way that makes sense for that audience, right? So like some protocols, and this is maybe out of context, maybe not the right example, but some protocols, some projects are, sort of play to earn projects. So having the KPI options built into that, where in a way people are rewarded for doing activities in the game, kind of lends itself well versus just being straight up distributed. Other DAOs or other protocols that are very focused on sort of financial tools and so on. Again, there are committees and so on that can be then rewarded based on their performance. So that is also another aspect wherein you're not necessarily trying to figure out everything internally, right? Being decentralized, and that sort of trustless aspect, we could also utilize those partnerships to enable the KPI options to be valuable within the communities as well. I just want one other quick point that I wanted to raise. Uh, Actually, sorry, I saw EA. I saw you unmute and then I lost my train of thought. Sorry, I'll just think of that. Sorry, go ahead, EA, or anyone. I mean, anyone else has comments.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Raiders, you're bringing up a lot of like the nuance or critical thought that goes into maybe what makes sense specifically for DFX if they were to move forward here. I think they're really complementary to the point I was making of what I would recommend is some middle ground of like incentivizing and aligning to existing community members and contributors and stakeholders, but then also to your point, doing some of that strategic analysis on other potential targets to kind of grow that initial base and then narrow in or refine from there on an ongoing basis. I think if my perspective or opinion is if you just focused on a community or you started too narrow as a starting point, you lose some of the benefit from like a awareness, marketing, hype aspect of it as well. Now, as you said, that's a balance. You don't want to. I think in Uma's example, it was overdone initially based on like the return for the 7,000 addresses. So I think really kind of complementary points to how we would go about recommending, evaluating kind of a distribution mechanism for this.
Yeah, any thoughts from the team on up here? And are there any questions in the chat? I'm not sure if there's a separate AMA chat or in general, but I personally can't view it because my mic cuts out if I exit. So just wanted to check in.
Any
Yeah, it looks like
takers?
about 10 minutes left. So unless anyone, of course, if anyone has more to add, but it'd be great to have any questions from the audience if anybody has any too.
It looks like someone posted in the KPI channel about kind of outlining the process, timeline, and steps for what it would take to get the KPI option up. Um, I'm happy to do that as well in a little while. Would you want to run through that quick?
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, someone was asking kind of, outlining the process steps and timeline for like how to create and what it takes to get a KPI option, off the ground.
Sure. Basically, two steps to creating the KPI options. One is an UMIT that basically just establishes the collateral as currency, or the currency rather as collateral within the UMA sphere or UMA ecosystem. And then the second UMIP, the one that's really required to launch, just defines all the metrics. And it's important to note that there's no actually developmental engineering required for that. The UMA developers are happy to, just work through the terms of that and then convert that into code, basically. And after that, it's ready to go.
I think I just add on as like a preface to that from a community and sort of a stewarding of the approach. The definition, like we've been discussing, on a couple of key parameters is really essential around the term, how long you want the KPI options to run for till they expire and they can be redeemed. What kind of, again, we spoke about metrics, we spoke about the value as well, right? What they're going to expire at. You can either have like a yes, we hit the metric, it will expire at as valued, or no, we didn't hit the metric and it doesn't. Or it could even be a scaling target using some kind of curve, either linear or otherwise. And then the value sort of increases as you hit a higher and higher metric. So I guess those would kind of be the key ones to really think about as well. So that once that's defined, then as in a little while said in that second UMIP, that all basically kind of gets codified in the contract for the collateral that's been put against it. And then it's pretty much game on in terms of, how do you want to find that middle ground for the audiences that you're going to be distributing into within the community, externally, marketing it and so on. It's really an exciting part, and it's not necessarily that the mechanism of how you actually use it is defined before you actually launch it. I think there are already two protocols, one of which I'm part of actually as an ambassador, are going straight into launching the KPI option, and in parallel are defining how we're going to be actually utilizing it. So it's really open up. It's really, oh, sorry, you can also really open it up in that sense, depending on how you all are comfortable, right, as community, as the stewards, and so on. So definitely, uh, I guess, reflect on that aspect, and then definitely go ahead with what you guys are excited about in terms of metric and so on.
I think part of it was a timeline too, which I think it could be done as quick as like 2 weeks. Although usually the coordination between teams I've seen takes a little bit longer than that. So it all depends.
Yeah, so just to like recap here, it sounds like once those two UMIPs are approved, we just that's basically it, right? And then we just mint and think about where to airdrop. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly. And also know you can mint within that expiry period. So if you wanted to mint more, that would also be an option.
Gotcha. It seems that like adding DFX as an approved collateral currency that's already been approved. I believe that's UMIP 104.
Actually, that's correct. It just passed.
Right, nice. So I guess it's just the other UMIP left, which is maybe a little bit more complicated because it's the KPI options thing, and right now, like, it sounds simple, like we just need to pass these two UMIPs and we're done. But there's a decent amount of work on our side, right? Because we have to figure out how we're going to calculate TVL, especially with all these new pools coming along. We're trying to work with DeFi pools to have a reliable number. At the same time, we're trying to launch our own subgraph. So just for the community's sake, it is easy, but there's still work to be done. And I think I would really appreciate, like I already appreciate everyone kind of being on this call to talk about that. But we really do need to keep this momentum up so that we don't, get stuck on one blocker and then forget about this whole endeavor.
Not to throw a random wrench into the conversation 4 minutes before we close. I don't know, just kind of curious if there's not potentially another metric that could make sense for you guys. Not only because it could be easier to measure, that's not a good reason to choose a different metric, but I would just be curious in a brainstorming way, are there other metrics? Like we use TVL for the first one, then we use integrations for the second one. I don't know if there's like partnerships that DFX would look into or some sort of equivalent type of thing, but or even you could do a self-referential metric that refers to the community size, although that's problematic for obvious reasons. But yeah, just throwing that out there. But a seed for the next conversations. We obviously can't really do much with it right now.
Yeah, I think TVL makes sense because it's like the easiest, and it also just makes sense. The other one that came to mind in the beginning was like transaction. But other than that, I think we're gonna just we definitely should keep an open mind about other metrics. But I suppose we'll use this TVL KPI option as a bit of a trial run and see how that goes.
Sure. I mean, it is the most intuitive one for sure.
I think we saw someone in the audience maybe raise their hand. Was that Crypto Forager?
Yep, that's him. I went ahead and approved him. He should be, let me see. I'm going to invite him to speak right now. There we go. Oh, sweet.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, man.
Oh yeah. Hey, sorry.
Okay.
I think you kind of commented on it a little bit, but it was sort of on that last notion as far as which metric to use, and it was sort of TVL. It seems like a really broad one compared to say like actual transaction volume, so that you're actually people are out there working to get usage on the protocol, and so that actually really fits on what you're trying to get. That was just sort of my comment, I guess.
Yeah, thanks for that. Also, I just want to point out the Crypto Forager. He helped us run the meme contest previously, so it's good to see you again. It's Yeah, I think the TVL is important, and the transaction volume is problem. It's actually two sides of it, because you need liquidity providers on one side. That's kind of the pools tab, and then you need people to actually make those swaps. And it is a bit of a chicken and egg issue as well. So just because we have tons of liquidity doesn't mean anyone's actually using the pools, right? So that's definitely one thing that we need to really consider as well.
So guys, before we end, I just do want to say that we do have a gift in the form of a POAP today, and DFX was good enough to set up the POAP bot. So what you want to do is find the POAP bot on your DMs, and then DM that bot the code stables for all. That's all lowercase except for the number 4. So one more time, I'll say it again, stables for all.
That's STABLES, the number 4, ALL, all lowercase, all together, no space.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is courtesy Surf Tranquil, who's over here in the audience. He's our awesome POAP master. And yeah, hope you guys like it. We love it. We're excited about you guys, everyone getting it out there.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Surf Tranquil. I wasn't able to get to set up that, but thank you for filling in and having that set up. I think you also need to have your DMs open for that to work. Is that correct?
Yep, that's an important one. Make sure your server settings are that you can receive DM messages from people on the server. Otherwise, it may not go through after you send that code out to the POAP bot.
This Poe app is so epic. Thanks, Surf Drinkwool. You just blow me away every time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you very much for setting that stuff up, man.
Just a quick one, in case there are audience members who are not familiar with the POAP. I still see this even at places like sushi, but it's minted on the XDAI chain. The XDAI chain. So it's free. There's no gas. It's pretty much just a really cool gift that you guys can sort of take back with you. And yeah, we hope you love it.
Thanks for hosting us, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Hey,
Yeah, this
pleasure's
was
all
fun.
ours.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys very much for all this.
Thank
And
you, guys.
great talking to you, seriously.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to come back anytime if you'll have community calls. Otherwise, you just want us to chime in, be there. We've done that with a couple of other protocols. It's really helped out sometimes with some questions that communities have. So yeah, happy to come back anytime.
That's awesome. We'll definitely hit you up on that. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Great.
you.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you, guys.
us.
Have a great day.
Stay safe. Cheers.
Take care.